My name is David. I'm 35 years old and I live in a modest house with my son, Leo. At 15, Leo is my whole world. I love him more than words can say, but recently a chasm has opened between us. The kind, cheerful boy I knew has vanished. He used to love school, spent his afternoons playing soccer with friends, and would even help me in the garden on weekends. But the Leo I live with now is a stranger. He defies me at every turn, stays out until all hours of the night, and has started skipping school. Every conversation we have ends in an argument. I feel like I'm looking at my son, but seeing someone I don't recognize. One particular evening, I found myself sitting in the kitchen, my eyes glued to the clock on the wall. It was 9:30 p.m. and Leo was still not home. I tried calling his cell. No answer. I called again, letting it ring until it went to voicemail. A cold dread began to creep into my heart. "Where is he?" I whispered to the empty room, pacing the small kitchen floor. Finally, at 10:00 p.m., the front door creaked open. Leo slipped in, his face obscured by the hood of his sweatshirt. He tracked mud across the clean linoleum. His clothes were rumpled, and a faint, acrid smell of smoke clung to him. My heart sank. "Where have you been?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice even, though my insides were churning with worry and frustration. "Out," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. "Out where, Leo?" I pressed. "Just out, Dad. Drop it," he snapped, his voice laced with anger as he started for his room. I stood in the hallway, engulfed by a wave of sadness and confusion. What am I doing wrong? Why won't he let me in anymore? The questions echoed in my mind, but no answers came. The next morning, I was determined to try again. "Leo," I said gently as he poured cereal into a bowl, his back to me. "We need to talk." "About what?" he asked, his tone flat, refusing to look at me. "About you, about what's going on. I'm worried, son," I said, taking a seat at the table across from him. "I'm fine," he stated, the words empty of any emotion. "You don't need to worry." "But I do," I insisted. "You're skipping classes. You're out late every night. You won't tell me where you are or who you're with." Leo just rolled his eyes and shoveled a spoonful of cereal into his mouth. "I'm not a kid, Dad." "No, you're not," I agreed, my voice firm. "But you are my son, and I need to know that you're safe." He offered no reply. He just stood up, grabbed his backpack, and walked out, the front door slamming shut behind him. The silence he left behind was heavy, thick with unspoken tension. I felt like he was slipping through my fingers, and I was powerless to stop him. That afternoon, I drove to Leo's school and met with his teacher, Mrs. Evans, in her cluttered little office. "Leo is a brilliant boy," she began, adjusting her glasses. "But he's been adrift lately. He hasn't turned in homework for weeks, and he's missed 3 major tests this month." 3 tests, the words caught in my throat. Mrs. Evans nodded grimly. "I've also seen him hanging around with a rough crowd after school. I don't think they're a positive influence." A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I thanked her for her time and left the school, my mind racing. How did my son get here? How did things get this bad without me seeing it? That night I waited for him. The clock ticked past 8, then 9. At 9:30, the door finally opened. Leo walked in, looking exhausted, his hair a mess. "Leo," I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. Sit down. We are going to talk. He let out a heavy sigh and slumped into a chair at the table, a look of pure annoyance on his face. I know you hate my questions, I began, but I am your father. I love you and I want to help you. I don't need help, he muttered, staring at the table. Yes, you do, I said, leaning forward. I spoke with Mrs. Evans. She told me about the missed tests. She told me about the new friends you've been with after school. Leo's head shot up. His eyes flashed with raw anger. You went to my school. Why would you do that? Because I'm worried sick about you. My voice rose, filled with a year's worth of pent-up fear. You're not the same person you were, Leo. You're changing and not for the better. He jumped to his feet, his hands clenched into fists. You don't understand me, Dad. You'll never understand. Then make me understand, I pleaded, my voice cracking. Talk to me. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me why you're doing this. But Leo said nothing. He turned, walked to his room, and slammed the door. The sound vibrated through the small house, a sound of finality that broke my heart. I stood there, feeling like a complete failure. I couldn't sleep that night. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts consumed by Leo. My mind drifted back to his mother. She passed away when he was only 10. Her death had left a wound in both of us that had never truly healed. Maybe his anger was just a mask for his pain. Maybe I hadn't been there for him enough. The next morning, I resolved to try a different approach. I woke up early and made his favorite breakfast, pancakes. When Leo walked into the kitchen, the surprise on his face was evident. Morning, I said with a small smile. Sit, let's eat. He hesitated for a moment, then sat down. We ate in a comfortable silence. I didn't ask any probing questions. I talked about my day at work, about the neighbor's goofy dog, about a movie I had seen. Slowly, I saw the tension leave his shoulders. After we finished, I said, Leo, I had an idea. What is it? He asked, his voice cautious. Let's go fishing this weekend, just the two of us. Fishing? He looked at me, genuinely surprised. Yeah, I said, like we used to, remember. A faint smile touched his lips. Yeah, I remember. Let's do it again, I urged, just like old times. He nodded slowly. Okay. That Saturday, we drove out to the lake. The sun was a warm blanket on our shoulders, and the water was a sheet of glass. As we cast our lines into the still water, a profound sense of peace settled over us. We didn't talk much at first, but after a while, Leo broke the silence. I miss Mom, he said softly, his eyes fixed on the water. Me too, son, I replied, my own voice thick with emotion. Sometimes I just feel so angry, he confessed, and I don't even know why. I nodded, understanding completely. It's okay to feel angry, Leo, but you can't let it consume you. He turned to look at me then, his eyes filled with a deep, raw hurt. I don't know how to stop. You don't have to do it alone, I said, placing a hand on his shoulder. I'm here, for you, always. That day on the lake was a turning point. Leo began to open up more. He started coming home on time, he caught up on his schoolwork, and he even went to Mrs. Evans to apologize and arrange to retake his tests. It wasn't a magic fix. There were still difficult days, moments of friction, but step by step, We began to mend the bond we had nearly lost. I learned that being a father isn't about having all the answers. It's about being present, about listening, even when the silence is deafening. And Leo learned that he didn't have to carry his burdens alone. Now, when I look at my son, I see the boy I was so afraid I had lost. He's not perfect. None of us are, but he's trying. And that is more than enough for me. Because no matter what storms come our way, I will always be his anchor.